The Kansas prairie stretched endlessly under a merciless sun, dust devils dancing across parched fields where corn should have grown tall and green. Instead, withered stalks stood like broken promises, monuments to 3 years of unrelenting drought that had stripped the land of everything but the stubborn determination of those who refused to abandon it. Marina Ashford stood at her kitchen window, her calloused hands gripping the worn wooden frame as she watched the horizon shimmer with oppressive heat. The glass was clouded with years of prairie dust, but she could still see her husband Thomas working the fields, his shoulders bent with the weight of knowing that this year's harvest would fail just like the last two. What would you risk for those you love? Keep reading to discover one woman's extraordinary choice. Their children deserve better than this dying land. 8-year-old Emma had her mother's quick mind and her father's quiet strength, but Marina saw how the girls' dresses grew shorter each month, how there was never quite enough food on the table. Little Samuel, barely 5, still laughed and played in the dust, too young to understand that his parents went to bed hungry so he could have an extra biscuit. And baby Rose, just learning to walk, reached for things they couldn't give her: a future, security, hope. The letter arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, delivered by a postal rider who looked as weathered as the landscape. Marina's hands trembled as she broke the wax seal and unfolded the heavy cream paper, so different from the rough brown wrapping they used for everything. The elegant script belonged to Mrs. Victoria Pemberton of Boston, Massachusetts, who sought a companion for her invalid daughter. The position offered room, board, and wages that made Marina's breath catch in her throat. More money in a month than Thomas could earn in a year of good harvests, and there hadn't been a good harvest in memory. It was an escape, a lifeline thrown across 1,000 miles of prairie, plains, and mountains, but it meant leaving everything she'd ever known, everyone she'd ever loved. Thomas found her that evening, sitting at the kitchen table with the letter spread before her and tears streaming down her face. "What is it?" he asked, his weathered face creasing with concern as he pulled out the chair beside her. She couldn't speak past the lump in her throat. Instead, she handed him the paper and watched his expression shift from confusion to understanding to something darker, resignation mixed with desperate hope. "You should go," he said finally, his voice rough. "I can't leave you. Leave them." Marina gestured toward the bedroom where their children slept, 3 small bodies sharing one narrow bed. "Marina, look around. We're drowning here. The bank's threatening to take the farm. We're 1 bad month away from losing everything. This money could save us, could give our children a chance. Have you ever faced an impossible choice between love and survival? Marina's journey will break your heart and put it back together." The train station buzzed with activity that made Marina's head spin. She'd never seen so many people in one place, never heard such noise and commotion. She clutched her worn carpet bag, containing everything she owned that wasn't staying behind with her family, and tried to memorize every detail of their faces. Emma stood straight and tall, trying so hard to be brave that it made Marina's chest ache. Samuel clung to her skirts with both fists, his face buried in the fabric. Baby Rose gurgled happily in Thomas's arms, unaware that this was goodbye, that Mama was leaving and might not return for months, maybe years. "I'll write every week," Marina promised, her voice breaking despite her best efforts. "And I'll send money. You'll see. Things will get better. We'll save the farm. We'll have everything we dreamed of." Thomas shifted Rose to one arm so he could pull Marina close with the other. "Come back to us," he whispered against her hair. "No matter what happens, promise you'll come back." "I promise. I swear it." The train's whistle screamed, a sound like the end of the world. Marina kissed each of her children, holding them tight enough to carry the feeling across the miles. Then she boarded, finding a seat by the window with shaking legs. As the platform began to slip away, she pressed her palm against the glass and watched her family shrink into the distance until they were just specks against the endless prairie, then nothing at all. She wept then, silently, as Kansas gave way to Missouri, then Illinois, then states she'd only read about in school books. The landscape transformed from flat prairie to rolling hills to mountains that scraped the sky. Each mile took her further from everything she knew, and closer to a world she couldn't imagine. Could you leave everything behind for a chance at survival? Marina's courage will inspire you to face your own impossible choices. Boston overwhelmed every sense Marina possessed. The crowds pressed in from all sides, thousands of people moving with purpose through streets that seemed to go on forever. The noise was deafening. Horses, carriages, vendors shouting, church bells ringing. Buildings rose higher than she'd thought possible, blocking out the sky she'd always used to orient herself. The Pemberton mansion stood in the prestigious Beacon Hill neighborhood, a testament to old money and older traditions. It was larger than every building in Marina's hometown combined, with more windows than she could count and a door that looked like it belonged on a cathedral. Mrs. Victoria Pemberton was a formidable woman with steel-gray hair pulled back so tightly it seemed to lift her eyebrows, and piercing blue eyes that assessed Marina with a single sweeping glance. She stood in the marble foyer like a queen in her castle, radiating authority and old-world elegance. "You're younger than I expected," Victoria said without preamble, "and clearly from farming stock. Can you read?" "Yes, ma'am. And write. I taught school for 3 years before I married." "Good. My daughter Catherine requires constant care and attention. She's been ill since childhood, a weak constitution that no doctor has been able to remedy. She needs companionship, intellectual stimulation, and someone who won't coddle her the way the servants do. They treat her like she's made of glass. She needs someone real." Marina was led up a grand staircase that curved like something from a fairy tale, down a hallway lined with portraits of stern-faced ancestors, to a room that was larger than the entire first floor of Marina's farmhouse. Catherine Pemberton lay propped against silk pillows in a bed that could have slept her entire family. She was pale as moonlight, delicate as porcelain, with dark hair spread across the pillows like spilled ink. But her eyes, dark and intelligent and burning with curiosity, sparked with interest when Marina entered. "You're the prairie woman," Catherine said, her voice soft but clear. "Mother thinks you'll be too rough for me, that you won't understand how to handle someone fragile. Prove her wrong." Marina smiled, feeling something shift in her chest. "I intend to, Miss Catherine." Sometimes the most unlikely friendships change everything. Discover what happens when two women from different worlds find common ground. Days turn to weeks, and weeks to months. Marina read to Catherine novels by Dickens and Austen, poetry by Whitman and Dickinson, newspapers that detailed a world in constant change. They discussed philosophy and politics, debated women's suffrage and social reform. Catherine's mind was razor-sharp, trapped in a body that grew weaker with each passing day. She devoured every word Marina spoke, hungry for connection with someone who treated her like a person rather than a patient. "Tell me about Kansas," Catherine would beg during the long afternoons. "Tell me about the sky, about the prairie, about everything I'll never see." Marina described endless horizons where earth met sky without interruption, thunderstorms that shook the ground and split the heavens, sunsets that painted the entire world in shades of gold and crimson. She spoke of Thomas's quiet strength and gentle hands, Emma's curiosity and quick laughter, Samuel's boundless energy, Rose's tiny fingers wrapping around her thumb. She described the smell of rain on dry earth, the sound of wind through wheat, the feeling of standing in the middle of nowhere and everywhere at once. "You miss them terribly," Catherine observed one evening, watching Marina's face as she spoke. "Every single moment. But the money I send keeps them fed, keeps the bank from taking the farm, keeps them hoping for better days." "That's love," Catherine said softly. "Real love, not the society marriages Mother keeps trying to arrange for me, where men see dollar signs instead of a person." They became friends, true friends despite their vastly different worlds. Marina taught Catherine prairie songs her grandmother had sung, simple melodies about hard work and harder land. Catherine taught Marina about art and music and culture, opening doors to rooms Marina hadn't known existed. They laughed together, cried together, shared secrets and dreams and fears, but Catherine was dying. They both knew it, though no one spoke the words aloud. Marina could see it in the way Catherine grew more tired each day, how the circles under her eyes deepened, how her breathing became more labored. "What would you do if you knew time was running out?" Their story takes an unexpected turn, that will leave you breathless. Winter came to Boston, harsh and beautiful in ways Marina had never experienced. Snow fell in thick white curtains, transforming the city into something magical. But inside the Pemberton mansion, Catherine grew weaker. Doctors came and went, whispering in corners with grave faces. Victoria's mask of controlled elegance began to crack, revealing the terrified mother beneath. One December evening, as snow fell silently outside the window, Catherine called Marina to her bedside. Her hand, when Marina took it, felt as light and fragile as a bird's wing. "I need you to promise me something," Catherine said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Anything. You know I'd do anything for you. When I'm gone, and don't argue with me, we both know it's soon, I want you to take my inheritance. Mother has set aside a substantial sum for me, money I'll never use. I've spent weeks convincing her to give it to you instead." "Catherine, no, I couldn't possibly." "Listen to me, Marina Ashford. You have a family who needs you, children who deserve a future, a husband who's breaking his back trying to save a dying farm. I have nothing but time running out. Let me do this one meaningful thing with my life. Let me help someone who actually has a chance at happiness, please." Marina wept, tears streaming down her face as she clutched Catherine's hand. "Your life means everything. You've given me so much, friendship, knowledge, hope. Then honor it. Honor me. Take the money and go home. Save your farm, raise your children, live the full, beautiful life I never could. Promise me." "I promise. I swear on everything I hold sacred." Catherine smiled, and for a moment she looked almost healthy, almost happy. "Good. That's good. Now tell me one more time about the prairie sky at sunset." Some gifts change everything. Marina's journey comes full circle in ways she never imagined. Catherine died on a snowy January morning, slipping away peacefully in her sleep with Marina holding her hand. The funeral was grand and elaborate, attended by Boston's elite society, hundreds of people who had never really known Catherine, who had seen her as Victoria Pemberton's tragic invalid daughter, rather than the brilliant, funny, compassionate woman she truly was. Marina stood beside Victoria throughout the service, both women united in genuine grief that transcended their different stations in life. Afterward, in the quiet of the mansion's library, Victoria handed Marina a sealed envelope with hands that trembled slightly. "She loved you," Victoria said, her voice thick with emotion. "More than she loved most of her own family, if I'm being honest. You gave her something real in a world of pretense. Use this money wisely. Make her sacrifice mean something." Inside was a bank draft for $5,000, more money than Marina had ever imagined existing in one place, enough to save the farm 10 times over. Marina took the train home, watching the landscape reverse itself like a story being told backward. Cities gave way to towns, towns to open country, mountains to plains to prairie. With every mile, her heart beat faster, anticipation and grief mixing into something bittersweet. She carried Catherine's memory like a precious cargo, determined to honor her friend's final gift. The farm looked exactly the same: weathered barn, small house, fields lying dormant under winter snow. But it was still standing, still theirs. Thomas was in the barn when Marina arrived, and when he turned and saw her standing in the doorway, he dropped the tools he'd been holding and ran. They collided in the snowy yard, holding each other as if they'd never let go, as if they could make up for months of separation in a single embrace. "You're home," he breathed against her hair. "You're really home." "I'm home. And Thomas, I brought hope. I brought our future." She showed him the bank draft, explained about Catherine, about the friendship that had bloomed in unexpected soil, about the gift that would change everything. Thomas wept openly, something she'd only seen him do once before, on their wedding day. "We can save the farm," he said. "Drill a proper well, buy seed and equipment, hire help if we need it. We can start over, do it right this time." Emma and Samuel burst from the house, screaming with joy when they saw their mother. Marina scooped them up, kissing their faces, breathing in the smell of them. Rose, now a toddler with Thomas's eyes and Marina's stubborn chin, peeked shyly from the doorway, uncertain of this woman she barely remembered. "Come here, baby girl," Marina called, kneeling in the snow with her arms open. "Mama's home. Mama's finally home." Every ending is a new beginning. But Marina's story isn't quite finished. The best part is yet to come. Spring came to Kansas with rain. blessed, beautiful rain that fell for 3 days straight and soaked deep into the thirsty earth. The new well Thomas had drilled pumped clear, cold water that tasted like victory. Fresh seeds went into rich soil, and this time they grew. The corn came up tall and green, reaching toward the sun with the same determination that had kept the Ashford family going through the darkest times. Marina planted a garden beside the house, but not just vegetables for eating. She planted flowers, roses in every color she could find, in honor of both her daughter and her friend. She told her children about Catherine, about sacrifice and friendship and love that transcends circumstance and station. She taught them that sometimes the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places, and that kindness can echo across distances and lifetimes. Years later, when Emma was preparing to leave for college, something that would have been impossible before Catherine's gift, she asked her mother what she should do with her life, how she should choose her path. Marina took her daughter's hands and said, "Be brave enough to leave when you must, be wise enough to return when you can, and always, always honor those who help you along the way. Pay forward the gifts you receive. That's how we make meaning from our struggles." The prairie stretched endlessly under a generous sun, the same landscape that had once seemed so harsh and unforgiving. But now the Ashford farm thrived, a testament to determination, sacrifice, and the unexpected friendship between two women who should never have met. Every evening, Marina would stand at her kitchen window, the same window where she'd once watched dust devils dance across dying fields, and watch the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and crimson. And she would whisper a prayer of thanks for Catherine Pemberton, the fragile girl with the fierce heart who'd given her everything. What legacy will you leave? Share this story and inspire others to acts of courage, kindness, and sacrifice that echo across generations. Sometimes the greatest journeys are the ones that bring us home. Marina's story reminds us that love, sacrifice, and friendship can overcome any obstacle. What impossible choice are you facing today? Remember, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's moving forward despite it. And sometimes, the people who change our lives forever are the ones we least expect. Share Marina's story with someone who needs hope today. Let it remind them that even in the darkest times, unexpected light can break through.